With the ever-increasing amount of data out there, it's harder and harder to find what you're looking for, and impossible to know what you're missing. At Elastic, we combine the science of search with the art of AI to take you from insight to outcome faster, helping you find the answers that matter from all your data in real time at scale, so you can build applications that harness the power of generative AI, solve IT issues with predictive analytics and workflow automation, and identify and respond to threats effortlessly. With the power of search and AI at your fingertips, it's never been easier to find answers for what's next. Welcome to ElasticON.
Please welcome Area VP of Sales, Megan Sevy.
Is my mic working? It's working. Awesome. Hi, everybody. Hello. Thank you for the warm welcome. I appreciate it. Welcome to New York City. We are so excited to have you all here today with us. As you heard by the fabulous announcer, I'm Megan Sevy. I'm the Area VP for the East Enterprise business here. So great to see so many of our customers in the audience. Thank you again. It is truly one of my favorite parts of being an Elastician to be here at events like this, where we get to hear from all of you. It is your success stories that truly fuel our passion, so we thank you for being here with us. We are not just shaping, industries, we're transforming them, and that is super exciting. We're revolutionizing healthcare, we're safeguarding against fraud, we are helping our lives be a little bit easier with, the ability to order our groceries or a safe ride home from the touch of our phone. And all of that in one unified, comprehensive search analytics platform. So super exciting. I'm more than thrilled to be here with all of you today. We are, I'm going to start by thanking some folks. So thank you to certainly our customer speakers. We appreciate you taking the time out of your very busy schedules to be here with us and share your stories. And of course to our partners, especially Google Cloud, our diamond sponsor, without whom we couldn't do this. So we appreciate all of you. So yes. All right, and our agenda, we have a jam-packed agenda. I'm super excited about it. We're gonna kick off with our amazing CEO, Ash Kulkarni. He's going to talk about AI and the future of search. And then we're going to hear from all of you. We've got great technical sessions. We're going to start with our customer keynote. After Ash, we're going to hear from EY and Comcast and hear their story. I'm super excited for that. And then we've got certain tracks for all of you to follow. We've got some technical breakouts, customer panels. So I think throughout the day, you will no doubt be hopefully entertained and learn a lot. That's the goal from today. So without further ado, I will introduce the star of the morning, Ash. Kick it over to you.
This isn't false advertising. Actually, it looked that way at one point in time. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. It's great to be here. This is the last ElasticON event of our fiscal year. So we did save the best for last. New York City is always a fun place to be. But before I get into the actual meat of the matter, like what we're going to talk about, not just about generative AI and search and everything that we do, but all the ways in which we are trying to make sure that we keep innovating with you so we can change and transform industries together. But before we go into it, I want to take a few minutes to recognize a lot of our customers who have been doing some amazing things with our platform. We call these the Elastic Excellence Awards, and I wanted to announce the winners. So the first award is the Cause Award. Now, this is a category in which we recognize organizations that are addressing social and humanitarian challenges for the betterment of the world. I'm going to go through these quickly, and we'll have a round of applause for the winners at the end. The runner-up or runner-ups in this category are Flow Health and Archive Nepal. And the winners in this category are C4ADS, which is a nonprofit with a mission to defeat the illicit networks that threaten global peace and security. They've been doing some amazing work by using the power of search to bring information very quickly to journalists, governments, and their civil society partners. Very exciting work. Next up is the Business Transformation Award. This recognizes organizations that are creating measurable, company-wide added value with Elastic solutions. The winner in this category is MarketResearch.com. Now, they are a leading provider of industry intelligence for businesses, consultants, investors. I have been a user of some of their services, and they are using Elastic's semantic search capabilities to help their clients find exactly what they want quickly. Some pretty cool stuff with Esri. The next category is the Elastic Observability Business Transformation Award for 2023. And the global winner for this category is Comcast. And we are going to hear Prabhakar talk about some of the amazing work that he's doing later. But everybody hopefully here knows Comcast. I've been a loyal customer of Comcast for a very long time. It's wonderful to see that they are also getting value from Elastic. But they've been using Elastic's observability solution for providing operational excellence by making it possible to quickly identify and resolve issues. The next category is our Security Business Transformation Award. The global winner in this, now, before I say anything, I have to admit that I am a Longhorn. I'm a UT Austin grad, but for those of you who know the backstory between UT Austin and Texas A&M, go look it up. But I have to recognize excellence when I see it. And the Texas A&M University System cybersecurity team gets this award. The Texas A&M University System, one of the largest systems for higher education, over 153,000 students and more than 23 million additional educational contacts. And they use our security platform to keep the university protected from cyber attacks. So some amazing work being done by a truly great organization. Next up, the Solve with Search Award. This goes to organizations that are uncovering relevant insights through the use of data and driving action from all of those insights. The two honorees for this are Bharti Airtel, or the one honoree for this is Bharti Airtel, and the global winner, SurePay. Congratulations. So SurePay makes payments personal, easier, and more secure. In addition, they help banks and other organizations to avoid misdirected payments and to reduce payment fraud. So some pretty amazing work being done by them. The Innovation Award. This is all about reimagining the way problems are approached and tackling challenges head-on to achieve success. The two honorees for this are Consensus and the New York City Office of Technology and Innovation, or NYC OTI. And our global winner is Ada. They're an AI-powered customer service automation platform that's on a mission to make customer service extraordinary for everyone. I'm getting to the end, but these awards are always interesting. The Public Sector Award recognizes an organization in the public sector that is leading the way in innovation, sustainable and critical use cases that truly add value in the public sector. The honorees are Network for Learning and, oh, this is going to be a little difficult, Arbets for Miljön. It's the Swedish Public Employment Service. And our global winner, so if that's being recorded, please try and use AI to edit it after the fact. It's the Met Office. For those of you who might not be aware, the Met Office is the United Kingdom's National Meteorological Society. It uses more than 10 million weather observations and their advanced atmospheric model to create over 3,000 tailored forecasts. And they use Elastic logging, monitoring, alerting under the covers for all their mission-critical needs. Now, we like to recognize some of the certified Elastic professionals who have done some pretty amazing work, not just with our customers, but with our community. We're adding value to the community because at the end of the day, this is something that we take great pride in. Our community is our superpower. So, let me first announce a couple of the certified professional runner-ups, Joao Neto and Anto Callas. And the winner is Adam Tischler. So Adam, congratulations. Now, he is a certified security professional with over 13 years of industry experience. And if you ever get a chance to chat with him, ask him about the CDM dashboard and some implementations at CISA. Now, he is extremely prolific on the Elastic Community Slack channel. And if you ever have any questions, you might get a chance to chat with Adam directly because he's always there to respond to questions. So, congratulations to all of the winners. Thank you for the amazing work that you're doing. Keep it up. We are who we are as a company because of the great work that our customers do, because of the great work that our community does. So if you wouldn't mind, let's give a big round of applause to all the winners. We very conveniently asked all the winners to sit around here, so that's why I was looking in that direction as we were all clapping. All right. With that, I wanted to get started and talk a little bit about AI and the future of search. Now, we describe ourselves as a search analytics company. I think Megan kind of mentioned that. What does that mean? I'll talk a little bit about what it means to be a search company, the journey that we've been on, the things that we are doing today, and where our future is taking us. So, before I do that, I have to acknowledge, we've come a long way. I mean, I've been with Elastic now for about 3.5 years. But the last decade or so, Elastic has become associated with all things search. And we've earned the right through everything that we have delivered and built. We started with lexical search, but then we've added things from aggregations to geospatial search to support for columnar data, graphs, so on and so forth. A lot. And if you look at the numbers, just in terms of the popularity of Elasticsearch, numbers don't lie. Whether it's in terms of the number of downloads, the unique authors, the pull requests, so on and so forth. I mean, we, at this point, are absolutely undeniably associated with search, and whenever somebody has a search problem, they, more often than not, will think about Elasticsearch and Elastic, which is great. We feel really good about the work that we've done together, not just as a company, but as a community. And at this point, when I step back and look at the suite, the platform that we have built, all the capabilities, it's fair to say that we help customers get value out of all of their data, their unstructured, messy data and everything else, in real time, at scale. And that is something that we believe allows us to call ourselves a search analytics platform. We combine the power of search, analytics, and AI, and I'll talk a little bit about that, and deliver real value to our customers. But there is this looming question, and maybe this was a bigger question a year ago than it is now, because the industry seems to have realized the value. But let me frame the question that we used to hear, and let me maybe talk a little bit about it. In a world where we saw ChatGPT completely revolutionize the way you searched for information or you looked for information, is search still relevant? in the world of large language models, is search truly still important? And obviously, from where I sit, and hopefully my job today is to prove this to you, if you haven't discovered this yourself, search is more important than ever before. We genuinely believe that. And that's what we're going to try and explain to you today. Now, if you think about what search does, search allows you to get relevant information in real time to whoever needs it. And because of that, it has quickly become an absolutely critical part of the infrastructure for generative AI applications. And in my conversations yesterday, I got into town day before yesterday and had a chance to meet with many customers yesterday. What was amazing was to appreciate how many of you are already using Elasticsearch today for building these kinds of applications. It's quite amazing. Now, when you look at generative AI, it's truly fascinating technology. Like, I always think of it as, with search in the past, you still got a bunch of relevant results, and then you had to click on every link and figure out, what information am I getting from this first result? What information am I getting from the second result? So on and so forth. When you think about generative AI, it's almost like the I'm feeling lucky button. It's compiling the answer for you. It's not giving you a bunch of relevant documents. It's giving you the fully compiled answer, which is great. It's absolutely amazing. But these applications come with certain challenges. But the first problem, obviously, is large language models are not trained on anything other than publicly available data. Now, there is all kinds of debate in industry and in governments whether the information that these models were trained on was truly public. But that doesn't matter. We know that these large language models have no concept of your proprietary data, data that might be sitting behind your firewall, data that might be in your applications, in your data stores. So for these models to actually work and give a contextual answer that works for your environment, that gap somehow needs to be bridged. Second, when you're sending information to these large language models, so it can be grounded and give a response based on your information, the more data you send these large language models, the more expensive your overall solution gets. Most of these models literally charge you by the number of tokens you're sending them. And if you want to do it in a cost economical way, like shipping all of your data, apart from the fact that you'd be shipping your proprietary information, it also means that your costs are going to run up in a pretty significant way. And lastly, your data is constantly changing. So how do you make sure that you avoid the problem of hallucinations? That you have these large language models actually give the right results every single time based on your particular context? Well, that is where retrieval augmented generation, or RAG, as now it's being very popularly known, comes into the picture. The idea is very simple. The question that gets asked gets sent to the large language model, but it also gets sent to something like Elasticsearch, where Elasticsearch looks at that question and says, what do I have in my corpus of information? Because Elasticsearch has ingested, indexed, and made all of your data searchable. It's able to quickly look at that store and say, what are the most relevant documents for this particular question? And then it's able to send that set of what's most relevant in real time to the large language model in the context window. And when you do that, now you ground your large language model. Now you give it context. Now it's able to answer the question correctly. And this pattern works irrespective of what large language model you're using. You saw in the list of our partners here today, all the 3 major cloud hyperscalers are here. They are all amazing partners. We do great work with all of them. Choice is of value to our customers, and we work really hard to make sure that we can give you that choice. What's most important is, because Elasticsearch is so widely used today, all of you within your organizations already have Elasticsearch somewhere, and you already have a lot of data sitting in Elasticsearch. And we make it possible for you to take all that information, take that infrastructure, and quickly build generative AI applications on top of it, using whatever large language model you might choose to use. That's the beauty of RAG. Now, there are various techniques that have evolved in the last year plus, ever since people really started focusing. I mean, these techniques have been around for longer than that, but when you think about the popular focus on them, in the last year, we have seen everything from folks trying to pre-train their own models to fine-tuning models to RAG. Now, it is our conviction that RAG is going to be a pattern that stays here forever. There's a reason for it in our minds. For pre-training models, there might be those who choose to do it. There might be those who can even afford to do it. That's a pretty big jump there. But it's not going to be easy, and it's not going to be inexpensive. So the number of organizations that will choose to pre-train models, build your own models, is going to be relatively small, and that's okay. Because fine-tuning is another technique that's quite powerful. Take a model that's been built, that works on data sets that are similar to your data set, and then fine-tune it on your data. That does work, that does help, that does make the results better. It still comes with this basic challenge that, one, it's quite expensive, and second, your data is constantly changing. The state of your data is never going to be static. Every second, you're creating, you're updating, you're deleting information. So if your responses aren't based on the exact real-time state of your data now, you're not going to get the right results. And hence, retrieval augmented generation, which is a real-time activity. And so even customers that we've seen who do fine-tuning of models still use RAG. And our goal is to make sure that we provide the best platform for RAG for all of you. We released the Elasticsearch Relevance Engine, ESRE. It came with a whole bunch of capabilities. Our vector search implementation, hybrid search, our sparse encoded model for semantic search, ELSER, a whole bunch of capabilities that we shipped when we shipped ESRE last year. Our goal is to make sure that you have not only the best performing solution for RAG, but also the easiest to use solution. And there's a lot of work that we have done and are continuing to do in this area. And that's been the goal. Dev tools that come out of the box, choice of models, because we do not believe that there's going to be one model to rule it all. There's a lot that's happening now in open source, and we feel that that's going to be very exciting. Domain-specific models are starting to emerge that we think are going to be another big area. So over time, choice of models is going to be incredibly important. And then lastly, enterprise-grade features. If you aren't able to ensure document-level permissions on the searches when you are getting the right documents to send it as context to the large language model, no enterprise organization is going to be comfortable with that kind of a solution. If you don't have the right built-in security, no organization is going to be comfortable with that solution. When you are thinking about searching and providing relevant information in the context of a question that's being asked, you need to take into account other facets, such as geolocation or personalization. How do you incorporate all of those into the searching that you do? All of those aspects are incredibly important. This is not new. This is something that we've known when it comes to data retrieval for a very long time. We can't ignore all of those things in the context of generative AI. They're just as important in the context of generative AI as they were in prior applications. And that is incredibly important for our customers, hopefully for all of you. We provide not only the vector search functionality, but all of these other things taken together. And our goal is to help you use the platform that you're already comfortable with, that you're already using, that you already depend on when it comes to all of your unstructured data and more, and to make it possible for you to take that same platform and build the next generation of generative AI applications. Many of you in the audience, and I know this because I've met many of you, are already building or have built applications using Esri. You're storing dense vectors in Elastic. You're using our vector similarity algorithms. You're building these applications with various LLMs. This is pretty exciting. We feel that this is, truly amazing era that we are in. But this is not something that we just chanced upon. And as I reflect back on the years of innovation, on the years of investment that we've been making in machine learning, this goes back many years. I think it was like 7 years ago that we added support for supervised and unsupervised models. It was 4 or 5 years ago that we added support for vector search, for vectors. We made it possible for you to bring your own transformer models onto the platform a couple of years ago. And we finally released Esri and the ELSER model, this sparse encoded model for semantic search last year. So a lot has been happening in our machine learning team, in the platform, for many years. Machine learning has been a core part of what we've done. And it's not just been on the search side or the foundational platform. It's also been in the applications and how we've used our platform to build applications, out-of-the-box solutions like observability and security that many of you use today. The anomaly detection functionality, the behavioral detection functionality, all of that has been built on that same underlying machine learning platform, all the way through to the AI assistance for observability and security that we made available last year and this year. It's been quite exciting, but it's been a journey. Now, if you ask me honestly, 3 years ago, if we would have predicted that there would be these transformer models, these inference models that would evolve to a point where ChatGPT would be available as a consumer-facing service, definitely I would not have guessed it. The pace at which this industry, this whole space has moved has been outstanding. We feel good about the fact that we invested in this area because we saw the value in what was happening in the transformer space. We saw the value in being able to encode your information in the form of vectors and apply similarity search algorithms in that space. It's been quite amazing. So, to show you what this looks like, what this feels like in the Elastic platform, let me invite onto stage our head of customer success, Baha.
All right. Hello, everyone. Mic is working, hopefully. Perfect. All right. So Ash talked about a couple of notions here. So RAG is one, the benefit of combining vector database with our search features as part of the same platform. So I'm going to go through a couple of scenarios within those demos I have here. The first one is this RAG application. And so this RAG application is using a context that is specific to Elastic. So we brought data that are internal to Elastic, HR policy, and all the stuff. And I'm going to start asking questions to this RAG application to just show you some of the different aspects. So the first thing is reducing, obviously, distance between a user and the information, which is what you're doing, which is what you're doing for your customers or your employees. The first one is, the first use case we're seeing on the field is customer satisfaction. The other one is employee productivity. So one of the questions I can ask here is, what is our work from home policy at Elastic? And so what's going on here is this question is going to trigger, let me just refresh, I think I lost, all right. This question is going to trigger a search request behind the scene, a semantic search that will go and fetch the document that are relevant, document that are stored as vectors, bring it back, and then provide it to the LLM. The LLM generates this response for me, which is a succinct response giving me the information I need with the link to the document. So that's the basic of a RAG application and semantic search. Now, I can tease a little bit more the semantic search aspect of it and ask a question like, does the company own my side hustle? And so we don't have a document called side hustle policy, but because side hustle belongs to the same semantic space than intellectual property policy, we're able to fetch that response and give you information about what if I have a side project and I'm an Elastic employee, what's happening for what I'm producing? Does it belong or not to Elastic? So that's one thing. Now I can go a little bit further and ask question like, what's the NASA sales team? And if I were to ask this question to you, I think probably you will think about space. But in the context of Elastic, because we're bringing an index that contains embeddings that is proper to Elastic, specific to our business, it means the North America and South America team. I can be a little bit more...
This was how we used to name our North America and South America team. This is like a unique Elastic thing. For whatever reason, in the past, like the way the regions were described, NASA was like the acronym for our North America and South America sales team. And so, if you go and search for NASA externally, that's not what it's going to know. But in the context of Elastic, it knows exactly what you're talking about because it's being grounded by our data, by our internal data.
By the way, I get confused myself on calls when people bring up NASA. I'm always thinking about space. But I can be a little bit more strict and say, what's NASA? And even in that situation, I tested it before. I hope it's going to, yes. It still gives me North America and South America region at Elastic. So this is what semantic search is. This is what bringing a context, a private context to a RAG application is to augment the knowledge of an LLM. Of course, here I'm using Azure OpenAI, but you have different options of LLM you can bring to build your RAG application. Now, last example is this one, where I'm connected as an engineer here, and I'm curious about my compensation. Is this fair? Am I in the right band? And so I can ask questions like, what are the compensation bands for engineers? Well, by the way, the reality at Elastic is that we're really transparent about it. But for the purpose of this example, we made it on purpose that for this set of permission for an engineer, I don't necessarily have the permission to see the HR document relative to compensation bands. And so this is an aspect that you should not forget. We didn't build security for vector database. Every enterprise-level features that were already available in the platform are leveraged by our semantic search capabilities to build a RAG application that is enterprise level. And this is the case here. So when I'm connecting as a manager, ask the same question, it leverages the document level security Ash was referring to, and fetches the document that is relevant within the set of permission I have. All right, so this was the RAG application. One of the things that we're really keen on at Elastic is being customer zero. And I wanted to just show this example of the Innovation Hub, which is an application that has been built internally for our support team to serve you, to increase their productivity, but also increase your satisfaction when you open a support ticket and have a technical question or an issue with the solution. This is where the support is going. And by the way, this application is soon going to be available to you as well as customers. And so here, what I'm illustrating is the fact that an LLM doesn't necessarily know about everything. It knows about the knowledge context it has been learning on. And so there is real-time data that are coming in that are not obvious for an LLM to answer, and it's going to hallucinate if you ask a question or just don't answer. Here, what I'm asking about is a CVE, so a vulnerability. And so what we are doing here is not only we're bringing all the knowledge, Elastic knowledge, into this application, but also real-time data. So our InfoSec team essentially get all the CVEs, look at the impact for Elastic, document them, and we ingest those data as part of this application. And I'm able here to understand what's the impact of this specific CVE on Elastic, and just inform the support engineer or even the customer that this is what's going to happen. This is the version where we fixed it, so on and so forth. So two things we're illustrating here. So real-time data, but the hybrid search is also very important. We're doing a semantic search and a keyword search at the same time here, where we are taking the CVE keyword or code name, and we're searching in addition to the rest of the query, which is a semantic search. There's a level of control we give here to the support engineer, but it's interesting for you to see that, again, this is a search platform, so it fetches the top results, and the application is taking the top results, submitting it to the LLM, and generating the answer. All right, so that's great. Building a RAG application, aware of the latest data, with segregation in terms of the permission, all of that is embedded into the platform. But what if you want to build a RAG application? So one of the things that the engineering team has been doing for a couple of months now is simplifying the process of building a RAG application. They've been working on something called Playground. And so this is the courtesy of the engineering team. We're in a conference, so I get to show you some cool stuff that are not released yet. So this is cooking. And so what this Playground is giving you is the ability to build a RAG application in few clicks. So you come in Kibana, you have Playground up and running, you configure your LLM, choose your data set, and from here, very simply, you start playing with your RAG application. And so you can ask questions the same way that I did earlier with a UI that is dedicated to it. Obviously, you can choose the model within the LLM you configured and just start playing with it. So two things we want to give on top of giving you the ability to play with a RAG application is a high level of customization. Like I said, behind the scene, we are triggering queries, search queries. By default, it's going to be a semantic search. You don't have to do anything. It's our answer model that is configured. But one of the things I can do is come in here and just like say, hey, I want to add a text field. And it gives you this ability to customize the query. But in addition to this, you will be able to take the code of the application and just go and build the application outside of Kibana. So that's Playground. But the other thing we want to do is meeting you where you are. And so we're really proud of our partnership with Microsoft. The team has done a great job in building the OpenAI studio. And so one thing that we're also very proud of is that we are the only non-Microsoft data source here. So what we've done is building, what I've done in this demo is I took the OpenAI studio, I've configured my Elasticsearch data source with my index. I can have one or more index. Doesn't really matter here. We can have more context if you want. And I can start asking the same type of question than earlier. And so one of the things I can do also is take this and deploy it as an Azure application and have it available now. So this is available. You can go and start playing with it now. All right? That's what
Awesome.
I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's pretty cool to see the level of integration with our partners. Like the demo with Microsoft looks really cool. By the way, for our friends from Google and AWS here, I'd love to do something similar with all of your technologies. So it is amazing when we do these integrations because our joint customers prosper. They'd love it. This is great for not just Elastic and all of you, but for the community. All right, so you know what I'd say is what Baha showed is not just stuff that we are building internally, but it's things that our customers are building. Cisco, as an example, has talked about the customer success use case, very similar to what Baha showed, that they have built using Elastic. They've talked publicly They were actually a presenter at one of our first ElasticON events in San Francisco. So this is something that we are incredibly proud of. But the question for you is, what makes sense for your organization? So I do have an ask here. If you haven't yet downloaded the ElasticON event app, my ask is download it, and please give us your feedback. Give us your feedback on what are you trying to build within your own organizations when it comes to generative AI. We would love to learn and, more importantly, share with others anonymously what are the kinds of use cases that are of value. Because what we truly believe is that not only do you learn through your interactions with Elastic, and we learn from our interactions with you, but you learn from your interactions with each other. Every industry is represented in this room today. And the value that you can provide to each other is incredible. So pass it on. Put in this information, and we'll make sure that we share with you what others are also trying to do. We've seen a lot of these examples today. Like we've talked about market research. They won an award today. But Consensus, that's using us for academic search, Relativity, legal e-discovery, Cisco, customer service, so on and so forth. Yesterday, I was talking to a customer in banking. They are building an application for serving their wealth management firms, their wealth management clients internally. It's pretty amazing. Across the board, the kinds of use cases are just fantastic. You will need to decide what makes most sense for you, and we are happy to help in any way and shape that we can. Now, what's next for search? Our goal is to make sure that we keep investing not just in the building blocks of how you can build these generative AI applications through making the technology more scalable, more performant, more efficient, etc., but also to make it easier for your developers, for all of you in the audience that are developers, to build these generative AI applications. That's our goal. And that basically takes three things into account. The first is our goal to make Lucene the best damn vector database out there, bar none. That is our goal. And we built our vector search implementation in such a way that it's built directly into Lucene, because we knew that the way Lucene scales horizontally, the benefits of the decades of development that have gone to Lucene are all important when you're building these Gen AI applications. So investing in this community effort, in our mind, is critical, and we are doing it. The second is to make Elasticsearch the best at building RAG applications. This is super critical. It's not only everything that we've talked about, but the work that we are continuing to do. Like one example of this is the work that we've done recently on scalar quantization. Like this is something that has allowed us to reduce the memory requirements by 4x. The performance of indexing has gone up by almost 2x. Like real significant performance improvements that are not just relevant to what we do in the vector space, but some of the work that happened hand in hand with it, like query parallelization, has helped everything that we do, all search operations. So there is real investment going into making the platform incredibly scalable, incredibly high performance. The last thing, to make Elastic the most open member of the Gen AI ecosystem. We talked about the integrations that we have done with our LLM partners, LLM providers. When Baha was showing the drop-down, it had OpenAI, it had Bedrock, it had Google, it had Cohere, it had Mistral. Like our commitment is to make sure that we provide that kind of flexibility and openness for you. We've also built integrations with other members in the ecosystem here, whether it's a Hugging Face or a LangChain, so on and so forth. This ecosystem is evolving very quickly. You're going to see new kinds of capabilities in the area of MLOps and so on. Our goal is to make sure that we build these integrations so the job of your developers continues to get easier with every day and every week that goes by. And we've already shown you the demo of the work that was done with Azure OpenAI Service on your data. The idea being to bring all of these capabilities closer to where you are doing your development, where you're doing your actual work, to build these co-pilots more effectively and more easily. I'm very proud of this because this makes it a heck of a lot easier for your teams to get going. I think that's going to be the name of the game. How do we make it easier for developers? The more we do that, the more you're going to be successful, the more the community is going to thrive. And if you're looking for more information on this, I would suggest that you go to this part of our website, Elasticsearch Labs. You should be able to find it on our website on www.elastic.co. There's literally every week there are new blogs, there are new how-to use cases being created, there are new code snippets there. Like there's so much new work that's going on that gets posted literally every week. This is the one-stop shop if you want to learn more about Elastic and everything that we're doing in the area of Gen AI. All right. Well, we've talked about the fact that search-powered AI is truly game-changing. But that's not all we do. Many of you use us for use cases around observability and security. So far, all I've talked about is core foundational elements of AI, how we enable retrieval augmented generation, how we are the platform for RAG. But what does it all mean for observability and security? Well, when I break it all down, at the end of the day, I think about why Elastic got into these areas of observability and security to begin with. When you think about the hardest part of what a site reliability engineer has to do to ensure that an application is up and running correctly, performing as expected, not trending in a direction where it could have downtime or some sort of catastrophic problem. It's all about these three things: detection, diagnosis, and then remediation. What went wrong? Understanding that quickly. Being able to get alerted as fast as possible, ideally proactively, when you see deviations from the baseline. Second, it's the diagnosis. Why is something going in the wrong direction? What is the root cause? And then lastly, the remediation. What do I do about it? Each of these steps is evolving and getting better with AI. The idea is to go from insights to faster outcomes on the basis of this search platform. Because at the end of the day, it's all about the data. It's all about the data. But how? By the way, for those of you who've known me, like nothing is ever complete without a Simpsons reference. It's like the greatest animated series ever. I might be a terrible parent because I'm introducing my 7-year-old right now to this. But how? Well, let's talk about that. It all starts with having the right signals. It's all about the data. Imagine a situation where you're trying to do a detection and you're trying to understand in your application something that's going wrong. Well, how do you usually first get alerted? You get alerted by some anomaly in the baseline. Could be something that shows up in your logs. Once you see something showing up in your logs that gets alerted, well, the next thing that you need to do is understand, well, where is this coming from? What's the infrastructure that this is running on? You might need to go to the metrics associated with it. You might need to understand, well, is it running on some Kubernetes pod? Like, what is the infrastructure? Am I seeing any CPU spikes? Am I seeing any spikes in the memory utilization? Like, what's going on in that particular infrastructure? Looking at the metrics. then looking a little further to understand what might be happening in the actual traces. Looking at the actual microservices, looking at the span of the transaction and trying to understand what was happening in that particular service at that point in time. Sometimes even that's not enough. And you need to go a little deeper and understand what might be happening at the method call level. And oftentimes, it might be in things that you can't quite instrument. How do you do it if you don't have the ability to instrument? Well, there are techniques such as continuous profiling. Using technologies like eBPF from the application space, from the user space, to look into what's happening at the kernel level and getting insights into what's happening within your application. Even in third-party libraries that you might have compiled in. Oftentimes, looking at what might be happening with your synthetic test runs, comparing them to baselines that you might have gotten from your synthetic test runs. All of this taken together, and then actually looking at your service level objectives, your SLOs. By the way, the SLO functionality that we released recently is like one of the most interesting things that our customers are using now, because they love the fact that they can define, configure all their SLOs and monitor those SLOs and see deviations from those SLOs, and they do something about it. But it's all about all of these different signal types. Being able to correlate across them and then getting a clearer picture of what was the root cause of the problem. And using AI to tie it all together. Because traditionally, whereas the approach has been, let your SRE figure out what is noise and what is a real signal, and then let your SRE, based on some static runbooks, figure out what to do about that particular scenario, how to remediate it. Why not let the system help you with it? Why not turn that static mode into something that's a lot more dynamic, something that's taking advantage of its understanding of the state of your data, of your observability data at that point in time, using AI to help you. So this is all about how AI can actually benefit your observability needs today. And this was exactly how we conceived of and built our own AI assistant for observability. And to showcase what this looks like and feels like, I'd like to invite back on stage the man popularly known as the Beard.
All right, so we're going to talk observability now. So what I'm going to show is also a very quick scenario where I walk in as an SRE in a UI like this one, which is the landing page where I get all my alerts as an SRE. This is our observability solution. You can go now on cloud.elastic.co, start using it, install the agent, ship data, and you will see this. You will start seeing this. All right. So I have one alert in the landing right now.
Not a lot realistic. You just have one alert.
I just have one alert because my system is stable. I've done the right job. And so this alert is quite interesting if we look at the reason here, the bottom of the screen. There's a lot of logs that has been generated in the last 5 minutes. So what I can do here at this point is drilling down into it. Not a lot of information in addition to what I see in the high-level details. But I can get into the alert detail directly here. And so Ash mentioned our journey through machine learning. It didn't start with just Gen AI. It started way back, almost 7 or 8 years ago, with the introduction of anomaly detection. And we built up on this feature over time. What we did is anomaly detection. We did log analysis, log rate analysis as well. We do some statistical analysis on top of the rate. And all of this is included into the investigation path of an SRE. They don't need to think about it. It's just here. So what we do in this UI is we first show that obviously there is a deviation. You don't necessarily see well on the screen, but there is a shade, a gray shade. Oh, all right. lost connection. Connection back, please. All right. And so what we see here is a deviation of the number of logs generated over time compared to the baseline. So definitely something is going on. But we haven't done just that. Remember, we are a search platform. So observability can search as well. We have full control on all the data we indexed. And so one of the things that this part of observability is doing, is surfacing the entities within my data that contribute to that anomaly. And so that's quite interesting here because we, in this demo, we logged everything from the infrastructure to the application layer. We'll see also that we ingested the traces. And so we can see Kubernetes is involved, and then there's a container involved, there is a database, a Postgres database involved, and then down to the username that has been used to execute a process called pgbench. So I'm sure some of you in this room are familiar with pgbench, but if you're not, as an SRE could be, within your investigation path, you also have the ability to come here and ask to the assistant, what is contributing to this, and can you give me a little bit more insights? And so what you see on the screen is a bunch of explanation, but in the text, one of the things that is important is this part. pgbench is a benchmarking tool, which I probably don't want to have in production. So from here, I can, either I know what it is and I can go and just remediate, or start chatting. And so in the chat, I can add questions like, what's pgbench, and should it be running in my production environment? Obviously, let's be honest for a sec. This I can ask outside of Kibana in ChatGPT. I will probably get the same level of answer. But what's interesting here is two things. First is within my investigation path. I don't have to get out of Kibana. It's contained within the set of my permission and all of that. Remember, we're enterprise-level solution. So there's a lot going on. Everything that I've done so far can run on terabyte of data. This is real time. Everything happens in Kibana. Second is the other part that I'm going to show you. After this explains me that, yes, pgbench is a benchmarking tool. Great. But what's the impact on my KPIs? The KPIs that I've also, outside of observability, I might look at something like my revenue, any sort of KPIs. And so I can ask this question, what is the impact on my revenue? And so this is the second interesting part. The engineering team has done a fantastic job of adding skills to the AI assistant. Skills through functions. Remember, our AI assistant is running within Elastic, within our technology stack. It's aware of all the APIs that are available within Elastic, including the APIs that serve our APM solution. So I am ingesting traces as well in this application. And so what's interesting is the APM side has APIs like get the service list, or look at a specific service and look at the specific API. This is what the AI assistant is doing here. It's calling the get APM services list and looks at different signals within the traces that I've collected that have been impacted within the same time frame, impacted by this anomaly. So two services surfacing here. The checkout service, throughput. There's definitely something going on in the same time frame. And the other thing is the failure rate. There's a lot of failure. So definitely there is an impact on my revenue. And so in addition to drawing charts that are coming from the skills that we added to the AI assistant, it also gives me some level of explanation on what was the impact. Now I can tease it a little bit more. So this is great. We kind of facilitate the work for the AI assistant with those skills. But what if I want the AI assistant to show me something that doesn't exist? And so what we did is another great level of skills to the AI assistant is the notion of another skill called Lens. So if you're not familiar with Lens, it's our visualization framework. So you can go in Kibana and start building visualization using Lens. We give that ability to the assistant as well. And so if I want to visualize my revenue, I can ask it to please draw it for me. And we'll use the function called Lens here and just draw it for me and see as well the impact within the same investigation path. All right, that's what I have for observability.
Thank you. Well, why don't you hold on here? I think what's most interesting for me is, like, you talk to anybody who's actually got an SRE job, and one of the first things that they'll tell you is, when you're in the heat of the moment and you're seeing something going wrong, being able to actually do everything in one place without constantly swiveling between multiple windows, like, that is massively important. Having all your signal types in one place, being able to correlate across them, and then using the machine to help you figure out not only what the root cause might be, but then potential remediation steps. That is big. That is significant. That's the promise of AI at the end of the day. If you can make somebody more efficient, your chances of getting better outcomes are that much higher. This doesn't just apply to observability, by the way. It's also about security. Many of you in the audience today, I know, are using Elasticsearch. And in security, we often will describe it in terms of security analytics. It's about SIM. It's about making sure that you're able to bring all of that data into one place and able to analyze it, whether it's your application logs or your network logs or your web logs, your access and identity management logs, being able to correlate across them to see anomalous behavior from the baseline. If Baha, who never connects to a particular application, has access to it, but all of a sudden connects to that application multiple times in a day, and then there is some exfiltration activity from his end device, but that is anomalous. It at least merits a check because it's different from the baseline. Being able to look at all of that data consistently is a big deal. This is at the heart of Elastic's SIM solution. At scale, on massive petabytes of data, we have customers who are doing this every day. But we don't just stop at that. We also allow you to bring in other data types, such as your endpoint data and your cloud security data. Being able to look across all of those signals and then take remediation action right at the point of impact. How do you, in the attack chain, stop the attacker in the best and most appropriate way possible? And most importantly, how can you use AI to aid in that journey as well? So with that, I'm going to ask Baha to maybe show you a little bit about how our security AI assistant works.
Thank you. All right. So hopefully you will be familiar now with our UX. It's pretty much, it's very consistent whether you're in observability or security, you're landing into similar pages. Here, alerts for security, which is essentially where you're getting all the alerts related to the detection you enabled. And so there's a lot going on this screen. There is quite a little bit of alerts. Under that, I can see the detection that have been triggered, the hosts involved in those detection. I can start and filter down to narrow down the number of detection here on the specific host. And so, you can be an experienced security analyst or not. What we do here on this solution is we try to simplify everything for everyone, and we'll see how. So first, you can definitely drill down into any of those detection and see timestamps, the detection description, the entities involved into this detection. I think it's pretty obvious for everyone that this is coming from Microsoft Office, but this one is probably less obvious, certitude, unless you've been facing it before. You probably don't know about it as a security analyst. And so what you can do from here is start expanding. So you go into a detection, start expanding. If you're an experienced, if you have experienced sizes, you can come here and see metadata that you probably are familiar with. So the meter attack tree, again, you will see the entities relative to this. But you also have a runbook you can use and start investigating. But what if I'm not familiar with all of that? I can use the assistant to simplify my investigation and help me understand what would be the remediation steps here. So one thing I can do with the assistant, again, leveraging an LLM, is to feed the assistant with context data that are specific to the detection that has been triggered, the one relative to MS Office. Sorry, the screen is a little bit narrow, so I will scroll slowly for you. We made it this way so we can zoom a little bit for you. So what I'm doing here is I'm fitting the model with context data. So the context is the event itself. And what the AI assistant is giving me back is first a description of the detection, the alert. But second, the more interesting part, let me scroll here and stop right there, is 4 things. And I'm just going to highlight, bucket this into 2. So the first thing is isolating the host is a recommendation that I'm getting here, because we can do that as part of a security solution. You can just isolate the host to stop the bleeding. The second aspect, which is very important, is surfacing within my data what are the entities that are important for me to use to start correlating. So the AI assistant is aware of our ElasticON schema, and it will surface the fields here. We can see 6 fields through 2 recommendations that are important for me to consider if I want to investigate more, which is really handy. You don't have to figure out yourself which field you need to use or which value. You can ask this directly to the assistant. And the last thing, which is related to the first, is, again, it's aware of our technology stack. So it's aware of the fact that we have an OS query integration, which means that, in this case, what it's recommending me is, why don't you install the OS query integration and just go and query if there is other child process of the same type running on this host. So that's that. That's the recommendation. In addition to this, there is trial steps and documentation that the assistant is giving me, which is great. So now, what if I want to know more about the certitude one, which is probably less obvious. I'm not necessarily familiar with it, so the assistant is going to give me that indication. So what I'm doing here is pretty much the same thing. I'm querying the assistant, and so what it's giving me, and this is going to be narrow, first it's telling me that the certitude.exe file is legit. It's a legit binary. There's nothing really wrong about it, but it's something that the attackers can leverage. Leverage to do a couple of things here. Downloading files from the remote resource, decoding files, but more importantly, bypassing security products. Because it's a legit binary, it can just bypass by executing it, which is very important for me to know. Now, part of my question was also, what was the impact for other companies when this certitude was leveraged by attackers? And so this gives me also not only how do I remediate, but what's the impact for my organization, and I can share this with the broader team that is part of the Security Operations Center. Now, I'm French. Maybe you heard that from my voice or not, but I don't want to involve any disconnect with my team. So what I can do is leverage what the LLM is giving me out of the box within my investigation process and translate this in oui. So I can have this in French and just share it with the broader team. This is going to be the impact for us if we don't remediate this detection. All right, that's it.
Thank you very much. Right. Thank you. We might have inadvertently insulted every French customer of ours, but we'll let Mark deal with that. But folks, this is the power of the platform. When you think about things in terms of data, when you recognize that all of these domains, it's all about the data. It's not about whether you have the ability to pull in traces, whether you have some APM capabilities, whether you have some cloud security functionality. It's about thinking more holistically and saying, all of these different signals, how do we bring them together to truly be able to detect the problem, diagnose it, and then remediate it? That's what this is all about. And then how do you use AI to reduce the things that you have to focus on, really make sure that you're only focusing on the signals and not the noise, and taking some action on it. Now, all of this requires us to have a common grounding in that data. The ElasticON schema is something that we've worked on and that we've had in our platform for a very long time. And last year, CNCF approached us, and as part of a discussion with them around open telemetry, we contributed the ElasticON schema to CNCF's open telemetry project as the schema for logs. So if you are ever bringing in logs using OpenTelemetry collectors, there is currently no great common schema for logs, and this is what it's going to be. This is great not just for every one of you that has chosen the Elastic platform, depended on us, because now it just makes OpenTelemetry and Elastic that much closer, but it's good for the community. The more we can have a common way to look at and interpret data, the better it is for everyone. The better it makes our ability to keep our applications up and running, the better it gives us the ability to secure all our applications and platforms. So we are really proud of this. And by the way, there's more that we are doing in terms of contributing our continuous profiling capabilities. We're in the process of that. We've made the proposal to CNCF for OpenTelemetry. So there's a lot. And when we talk about our commitment to being open, to being members of the community and contributing back a lot, these are just a few examples of that. It's also about making it possible for your developers to have the right kind of analytics functionality at their fingertips. So if you haven't had a chance to look at and play with ESQL, the Elasticsearch query language, I would strongly encourage you, either yourself, if you're a developer, or if you have developers in your team, to take a look at it. One of the things that developers have asked from us in the past is the ability to iteratively build queries. ESQL is a piped query language where you can define a particular query, pipe the output of that query to the next stage of the query, and keep iteratively developing that way. It's incredibly powerful. We are super excited about it. We made this available in the November timeframe. Since then, we've had over 1,000 customers and growing that are actively using ESQL. So just the uptake on this has been pretty amazing. And it's not just relevant for observability or security, it's relevant for everything. There's more work we're doing to even make ESQL relevant to search use cases. There's more that we'll continue talking about in this area in the coming months and quarters. So what's next? In the area of observability and security, we aren't resting. There's a lot of work, a lot of it around AI. How do we better use AI functionality to both surface issues and help you remediate issues? ESQL, and something that's really exciting for me personally, an enhanced log experience. There's so much that our customers do in terms of using Elastic for log analytics. We can never do enough in this area, and there's a lot more that's coming. So stay tuned, keep talking to us about this. The last thing, which is very relevant for New York, a lot of you are entirely in the cloud, and many of you, because you work in regulated industries, are on your journey to the cloud. Our goal is to not be in your way, but be facilitators for you. We want you to not be dictated on your topology by Elastic, but be there in such a way that whatever topology choices you make, you can work effectively with Elastic. And we've invested in capabilities like cross-cluster search to make it possible for you to have a cluster in your self-managed environment, in your own data centers, have clusters in cloud, in different clouds, because we provide both cross-cloud and hybrid abilities to do cross-cluster search. For us, this is key. It means it makes it easy for you to support your move to the cloud at the rate at which you're making it. All right, that brings me to the end. A lot that I've talked about, and some pretty fun demos. By the way, everything that Baha showed is available in the platform today. It's not stuff that's coming 3 months from now, 6 months from now. It is technology that is available today. We have demo booths outside. We have partners who are here to talk. My encouragement to all of you would be, make the most of the day. Make the most to learn not just from your conversations with Elastic and our partners, but from conversations with each other in every opportunity that you can get. It's our foundational belief that when it comes to your data, because so much of it ends up being incredibly messy information, unstructured in all kinds of forms, search is absolutely critical and it is incredibly important when it comes to generative AI. We believe that AI is going to revolutionize how people approach observability and security. And it's going to be incredibly important to be open, to give our customers choice, to make sure that we make it possible for you, much like we showed with the Microsoft example, to work in the environment of your choice. And we are committed to that. Lastly, I'll end by saying thank you. Thank you for all the support that you've given us, for all the support that you continue to give us. Thank you for your confidence in Elastic and for the journey that we've been on together. Our focus on innovation is relentless. Our focus on your success is absolutely complete. So I hope to be here presenting on the next round of innovations that we do sometime in the coming year. But until then, enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you.
And now, please welcome to the stage Search and AI Go-to-Market Specialist, Steve Mazak.
Test, test. There we go. It's working. All right. This room is not as full as it was. I'm very disappointed, but that's okay. People will shuffle in as we go. I'm Steve Mazak. I'm Search and AI Specialist. What does that mean? That means I focus on Search and AI for Elastic with our customers and how we bring those solutions to market. So I work directly for Matt Riley, who runs the search team at Elastic and the AI team. So that's me. I'm very excited to be here today. Thank you all for coming. We have a couple of customers that I'm going to do some Q&A with, and if we have time, I'll ask for questions from the audience. So be prepared. If you hear something you want to know more about, you'll probably get a chance. So first up is Vishaal. Vishaal works at E&Y. He is building his career based on risk and AI right now. And Vishaal, come up and everyone please give him a round of applause. And then I'd like to welcome, Vishaal, thank you. And then Prabhakar, who, funnily enough, like our histories kind of cross over. Prabhakar works at Comcast, and he's been there for about 15 years. But before that, he was a WebLogic admin, and I used to build Java apps that deployed on WebLogic. I'm probably aging myself, but that's us. So let's have a seat and get started.
Yep.
All right, so I mentioned a little bit about your guys' career, but Prabhakar, why don't you tell everybody here what you do for Comcast, and then we'll get into more Elastic-specific stuff, same with Vishaal.
Sure. Hey, I'm Prabhakar. I belong to an organization called DevX. It was set up for improving the developer experience. The focus is how do we end-to-end improve the developer experience. My part of that organization is I manage an observability team. And our goal is to kind of see how we can centralize all the observability requirements so that we accelerate the TCO or the developer journey and time to market of some of our services.
Right on. Thanks, Prabhakar. Vishaal, what do you do for E&Y? More than what I said, obviously.
Yeah. So I work within the AI risk space at EY. So we were before focused within the financial services risk management. But now we are a bit more on the global side where we are diversifying across different industries. My core focus has been around Gen AI over the past year and a half or so. Before that, it was traditional AI models. Was looking into different dimensions such as fairness, bias, security, and now we're trying to apply all of those principles to Gen AI. So pretty interesting space. There's no real answers, so it's nice that we're always looking for something interesting on how to sort of responsibly deploy Gen AI to our clients.
Is anyone in the room focused on this at all right now, like deploying AI responsibly? I imagine some of us are.
Oh, there we go.
All right. If you're not there yet, you will be, I'm sure, soon. So, all right. So, Prabhakar, let's start with you. How do you guys use Elastic at Comcast?
So our journey with Elastic started about a few years ago. As I said, the team goal was to kind of centralize observability services to TotalLog. And we started our journey with Elastic on the logging side. So we use Elastic today to kind of centralize all the logging within, I wouldn't say 100%, but predominant big quantity of Comcast.
Okay.
And we hope that that gives us a lot of flexibility into how we kind of add AI on top of it. The journey started about 3 years ago when we migrated from a different vendor into Elastic. So we've had a challenge where the data was everywhere. I know that's not a unique concern when it comes to observability. You have a lot of data, right? So you have visibility at an app level, but when you look at end-to-end, it gets challenging.
Yes.
The goal was to kind of how do we bring that together? And we started that with partnership with Elastic. As we migrated over, we had some significant savings, OpEx-wise, right? But the key is, as Baha and Ash were talking about, the common schema and some of the ESRE stuff, that's where we were looking to kind of leverage more of it.
All right, perfect. We'll get more into that as we go, so thank you for that. Vishaal, how do you guys use Elastic, and how do you use it personally?
Yeah, there are a couple ways in which EY uses Elastic. I think at a larger organizational level, we use it for our internal search. Our Discover tool is what we call it. Similar to the examples that we saw, it's around searches that employees can use. But I think what our team uses it is a bit more interesting or a bit more fun, I'd say. Bias aside, but I think that a lot of examples that Ash had shown around RAG and how we can extract insights is a space that we're working with. But how can we essentially scale it up a bit more? How can we improve reliability, reduce the latency as much as possible? I think these are some areas that we're personally exploring with Elastic. And we are going to be publishing a white paper with the team. So it will be something that will be pretty interesting to explore because we are extracting information from highly complex, semi-structured or structured, and also in some pieces, unstructured PDF documents or documents at scale. So I think it's very interesting to see how the performance of naive systems, naive RAG, retrieval augmented generation, and Elastic-enabled RAG systems, how the performances compared with each other. So that's sort of how we are trying to work with Elastic and take it to our clients.
Right on. So you're writing a white paper. Like, is that going to be out in the next few months, or how long?
Probably sooner.
Okay.
Hopefully sooner. A lot of just review cycles and making sure legally everything's okay, whatever we say. But yeah that's
all right. Well, when you publish, I'm assuming you're going to put it on LinkedIn. So take a picture so you can follow them. Yeah. And Prabhakar, I don't know if you're writing any white papers or anything, but we can also promote your LinkedIn if you want.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about the industry that you're in, Prabhakar. Like, what are the challenges that you're facing that you feel like are somewhat unique to you and your industry versus like what Vishaal might be seeing, and we'll get to you next.
Right. I mean, I'll start with observability first, and then talk about some of the challenges we see at Comcast today, right?
Okay.
If you look at observability, the bigger question is, how, as we talked about, how do we kind of look at an overall observability, not in an app or a device observability, right? And consolidation. How do we, and as Ash was talking about, how do we bring the 3 pillars of observability together into one view? Because that's where the metrics will drive the alerting, and then you use logs for initial look of issues, and then traces will give you a little bit of a deep down.
Yeah.
And the challenge is, if you look at the industry on the observability side, how do we, I know we talk about search as a speed of search is critical. It is very important when it comes to outage management, because you want that data to be visible to our SREs and our engineers sooner, so that they can pinpoint where the problem is. Okay. So every time you save a few hours, few minutes, that's better customer experience overall.
Yeah.
When we look at Comcast in particular, from an observability perspective, right, different data sets, right? There is platform observability, the data coming from different platforms, and then you have application data coming in, and then device data coming in also. So now the question is, how do we bring all these things together in a way where we are able to kind of visualize what's going on at an individual set-top box for a customer, but also at an app level, so that if there's an issue on a set-top box, we know exactly where the problem is, which app has that issue. So that's where the consolidation kind of starts. That's the foundation stone. Get this data together into one place, and then see how we can kind of put anomaly detection on top of it, and then hopefully eventually get to predictive analysis.
So in your business, I imagine there's a lot of like preparing for events and things like that. Like, how does that work at Comcast?
Yeah, I mean, Olympics is coming up, right?
Oh, that's
so
right.
That's a big one.
I think Baja's country's hosting, right?
I'm sorry?
Are they in Paris or France or something?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, don't give Baja any more things to brag about.
So Olympics is something we're looking at. For example, when you look at Olympics data, a lot of streaming going on 24/7. We're trying to see, we're actually doing a POC, and Elastic is part of that POC, along with other AI teams within Comcast. And what we're trying to do is exactly what we talked about, consolidate the data. If there's an issue on streaming, is there a way to pinpoint where down the stream, right? In the world of microservices, it is so distributed, functionality is so distributed, it is very important to find out where exactly the problem is. And that's a POC actually we are working on right now, and hopefully we'll have a solution, and it'll grow.
Right on.
Yeah. But data is a challenge for us. The bigger challenge is Comcast is a data-driven, so one of the challenges we have is how do we kind of ingest this much of data, right? So smart sampling or filtering, smart sampling gets very critical.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like, how do you determine what to sample and what not to sample? That's the obvious next question.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Because you can always say, hey, I'm going to stay 50% of sampling, but the question is, are you getting the right data?
Yeah.
Right. So that's where smart sampling comes into this picture. Is rather than just doing a 50% or a 10% sampling, is there a way to kind of figure out that you're getting the right data in the sample?
Yeah. So it's more like head-based versus tail-based type of thing, stuff like that. Okay.
Yeah, when it comes to tracing, yes, definitely tail-based is what we want to do.
Yeah.
Right. It comes with certain challenges, but that's something we're working on right now.
Okay. Right on. Vishaal, let's talk about your industry for a bit. Like, what challenges are you seeing that you think are unique? I mean, you work in finance mostly, is that right? But you're branching out?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So we are currently working with financial institutions predominantly. So I'm actually based out of Toronto. I should have mentioned that earlier. So our biggest industry there is financial services. So it's big banks, insurance, fintech in general. And some of the challenges, and I'll talk from a GenAI perspective, because that's what I've been primarily focused on, going to market with that sort of technology as well. Some of the large challenges that we constantly see is one is the data preparation. With Gen AI, the promise is that you can feed anything to it. It can be unstructured. It could be whatever format. It could be plain language, natural English that we're used to sort of communicating with each other. So I think that sort of promise makes it a bit more challenging to deliver on solutions because models are still models, and there are a lot of pre-processing that needs to happen. And I think there's that disconnect there within industries in general, but I see that a lot in financial services. The other piece is around a lot of layered approaches. So you have enterprise level strategy, and then you have business line level strategies. So with Gen AI, I think a big challenge is cloud provider selection, model selection as a whole, because now they're sort of tied together. Depending on what models you are provisioned to within your business line, you're able to access certain models. And then whatever your provision at an enterprise level, you're allowed to access that. So it becomes a little challenging that way. And as consultants, our job is to essentially try to parse that noise for them, try to provide that insight to our clients. And so I think these are some of the big challenges, but then there's also challenges like, how do I ensure performance? How do I ensure that the performance of the models are consistent? Can I ensure reliability as a whole? And then there's, depending on the risk or where they are situated within the organization, there's also components like security. Yep. Very concerned about that in terms of prompt injection and attacks in general. So I think that these are some key things with Gen AI adoption, I'd say, that the industry is moving towards. Maybe in the US is a little bit different because we are, in Canada, a lot more risk averse. So there's a fine balance between innovation and risk, and I think that we are in the middle of that, trying to find that balance for our clients.
You're starting to sound like a CISO a little bit. Risk and innovation. Those
no,
are
I know.
I hear from them.
The CISO is probably the people that have been involved so much in all decision making now with Gen AI. So they're probably stopping a lot of the innovation. I'm just kidding. No, it's yeah.
No, that's fair. I've noticed with a lot of customers I've talked to is like this data hygiene problem is now front and center.
Yeah.
And like, how many of you think your data's in good enough shape to train your own LLM, for example? Probably won't see a lot of hands go up. I mean, I don't remember the last time I met an information architect that was working on a wiki actively, but like that's where a lot of our information is, like tribal knowledge. Yeah. So if those things are not in good shape, like good luck. Yeah. It's going to be tricky. Yeah. Luckily, RAG helps you get there, but you got to focus on the data first and foremost. And I think, Prabhakar, for observability, like Ash was talking about, there's like detect, diagnose, remediate. The first step is getting your data in the right, clean formats.
No, I agree. And I think that's where the common schema comes into picture, right? So it's interesting you mentioned that because we were looking at some of the AI ops stuff a while ago. And we've learned the hard way on the observability side that the data wasn't ready. It was not in a shape where you can feed it to models. Yeah. Get a anomaly detection at least, which was highly reliable. So we had to take a step back and say, hey, let's look at some of the consolidation efforts. And then I think what Elastic is doing from the common schema perspective, and we actually expanded that to add more fields, which we call Comcast extensions for the schema. And what they're doing with donating that to open telemetry is a big win for the overall.
Oh, right on.
So it puts everybody in the right direction to kind of leverage that schema.
Yeah. Do you think things like ElasticON schema can work long term? Like coming from the J2E world, we're not like immune to knowing what vendors or big organizations want to project or kind of push out into the industry versus what the individual needs. Like, do you think that's something that can be widely adopted?
I think so. It is a challenge, no question about it, because there has to be some time that needs to be allocated by the app teams to kind of implement those. But in the long run, I think it bears fruits. Yeah. So yes, I mean, especially when it's adopted by the open telemetry industry, I think there's a huge value add there. I think that will lead some of the adoption. But I do believe a common schema is a requirement if you really want to do the end-to-end observability. Without having a common schema, it gets very, very challenging. Yeah. And even if you want to put AI, generative AI on top of it, I think having the common schema is going to really be helpful there as well.
Yeah, especially for companies that have all these different teams and have embraced kind of the centralized service, go build your own thing, but let us host it for you. That's a real opportunity, but also a challenge to get everybody on the same data formats.
Right.
But, you know, I'm hopeful that we can get there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We hope so too, right? I mean, I think that's going to be critical for overall success on the observability side, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, in my opinion, who cares what you call an IP address in the database? It's an IP address. Why do we have 50 different names for it? It makes programming against it very hard, if not impossible. So,
yep.
And Gen AI can only solve so much, I think. All right, well, let's talk about some more Elastic experience. So, you guys have both been using it. I'd love to hear a story about how it enabled you to do something that maybe was harder before, a lot harder before, or something new that you discovered that was like, oh man, this is kind of an unlock for me with Elastic.
Right. I think it starts with the common schema, as I said, right? So we were looking at a way to leverage that, and then having Elastic commits come with its own common schema helped us kind of speed up a little bit. The adoption is not where we want to be, but I think it's in the right direction. So that's definitely helped that kind of, yes, you can consolidate all the data for sure, but having that coming in a standard schema and a structured data helps. Right? There are opportunities where you can look at unstructured data, but if you really want to do an end-to-end observability, I think structured data kind of helps a lot there as well. So that from the Elastic schema side helped us there. As I said, when we started that journey, we had something in mind. We are not there yet, but it is a continuous journey. I think it is not something done in a year or so, right? So we hope that we continue there. So that's hopefully we're going to kind of help us in what we call as an observability maturity model. We have an observability maturity model which we are trying to hit in Comcast. So this will kind of help us out there.
So what's at the end of that maturity model? Is it automated remediation?
Pretty much, right? Okay. Automated remediation, predictive analysis is where we want to be, but one step at a time, right? Consolidation is the first one. Yeah. Then a basic anomaly detection, right, is the next process. And then the ESRE stuff is coming up very well, right? And some of the recent releases, the ESQL has been very well adapted. The teams, the developers really like it, and it's much faster. So eventually start with anomaly detection, then root cause analysis, and then eventually get to predictive.
Yeah. But I found with customers too that the root cause analysis part is a really time-consuming part. Once everything's done, you've gone past the outage, you're now back up and running. Creating that report can be very time-consuming.
It is, yes.
Yeah, and I've seen people use our AI assistant to start that process. It's really incredible, actually.
Right. If you look at, there are two things, right? I mean, if there's an issue, we want to understand what the blast zone is immediately, right? In a microservices world, you have a couple of thousands of microservices in certain industries. So understanding the blast zone is very important, because if you're on a call, it takes a decent amount of time to understand what the impact is and what's the impact overall, right? So, and then the root cause, if you're able to pinpoint the root cause as soon as possible, that kind of helps in terms, as we said, the core team is DevX, developer experience. So if you really are able to pinpoint the issue, then there are teams who don't really need to be on calls. So that's our save for the developer, and which they can kind of focus on business delivery.
Yeah. So is anyone sending their AI assistant to phone calls for remediation yet? No? All right. You think that'll be a thing someday? We don't need anyone from the network team. Just send your AI assistant.
I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see. We'll see. Vishaal, what about you? Is there a moment in your experience with Elastic where you're like, hey, this is something that I don't think I could have done any other way?
Yeah, no, I'll sort of give a teaser to the sort of challenges that we were trying to solve. So there are two specific areas that we were trying to parse through the information. So one was in the ESG space. Within banks, they have to report their ESG commitments at the end of the year. It's not only their own ESG metrics, it's also Scope 3, which is emissions that they take on as investments. So it's very important for them. They have to annually report it. That's one type of report. The second type of report is the quarterly analyst calls. So, and also the actual quarterly reports as a whole. So it's every quarter, the actual data tables that get released after the investment calls. Both of these come with very innovative, interesting challenges, and innovative solutions are required for this. First, ESG reports are very semi-structured. They have tables, they have graphs, they have words, they have a lot of interesting pieces that the amount of insights that you actually want to extract is very specific. So ESG experts, for their modeling, they require scope 1 emissions, scope 2 emissions. They want to see how many percentage of BIPOC is in their leadership. This is very specific information that could be, depending on the bank, could be hidden in tables, could be hidden in paragraphs, could be hidden in graphs. So very interesting challenge. That's on the first space. The second one is around quarterly reports. For the majority part, I think all banks have a standardized way of reporting it. But the issue is it's only tables. And if you've worked with large language models, you will know that they don't like tables. They like text. They like unstructured data. They don't like tables. So how do we then take tables and feed it through a RAG system, which is not built for tables, which is not meant for tables at all? It needs context. How do you give context? Because the other piece is with RAG, you actually chop information and you parse it in chunks, just chunking. How do you chunk a table? You cut it in between. You take the whole table. If you take the whole table, you're going to have hundreds of pages worth of tables. So it's very challenging to parse tables. And then if you want to extract 40 key variables from, 40-page document that has 50 tables or so, how do you do that? So these are some interesting challenges that we had. We actually built a full solution open source, and then we listed out some of the key challenges. The first one was around latency. Indexing took forever, and every single time we wanted to index a lot of these documents, it took a very long time. The second one was a bit more around explainability. What's happening under the hood? Can we extract the context a bit more? Where's this actual response coming from? Which chunk is it coming from? So a little bit more around traceability. And the last one was around scalability. Can we scale this across different banks, across the globe, across different years, and things like that? So we ran into all of these three challenges, and Elastic, and this will be reported in the paper in a more mathematical approach. But the crux is that Elastic was able to shave down a lot of the latency costs because their indexing model is a lot lighter to run.
Yep.
So the embedding model is able to parse through a lot of information in a lighter manner compared to traditional approaches. And the other piece around scalability, obviously, was a huge impact because we were able to start running jobs on different reports across years, across banks. So we could scale both ways. And especially ESG, for example, some banks report forward-looking. So 2019 won't be reported in 2019, they'll be reported in 2020. So it's like we need to actually index all of it, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. To get one response. So these were all different challenges that Elastic was able to solve for us. And we've tried to capture all of these insights. And there's a lot of different intricacies within Elastic as well. So there's filtering, which really helps out as well when you index it and you can filter it easily. So there are a lot of specific tools within the GenAI toolkit that Elastic offers that we were able to play around with and try to get the results that we want.
So are you to the point now where you're able to generate the reports completely with AI, or is that a goal out in the future where you want to be able to generate the whole thing?
So it depends on what report. Not this report. That's not the goal, but we internally at UI have built use cases that do report generation, but it's more validation reports for models.
Okay.
Within credit space, within fraud and anti-money laundering. So they have to create these reports to submit to regulators.
Yep.
So GenAI is there in that sense. But these reports, the goal was not to generate the reports. The goal was to extract information from these reports.
Yeah.
Because banks anyways have to do it. They have to generate it, and it's all tables or it's all in an unstructured format. But extracting is very difficult because there's a lot of downstream tasks. The quarterly reports goes to CRO office, and they do their investment strategies and risks and credit sort of variables that they want to look at, ratios. And then the ESG goes to ESG modeling. So they do a lot of the emission-based modeling for each bank, which could affect credit and so on and so forth.
Okay.
If you can jump in, and Vishaal kind of brought up scalability, right? That brings its own unique challenges, right? Especially with data, you have a lot of data governances where you cannot move data around, right? You have a place where EU data has to stay in EU zone. So the question is now, how do you bring all these things together? Also, is a challenge we need to kind of look at. Most of the industry is where, and it's global right now. So, but you need to kind of bring this from a visualization perspective closer, but you cannot move the data across because of data governance. So that brings up a unique solution. In our case, for example, we use Elastic in EU for our syndications, whereas we have North America for Comcast here. So that brings up a unique challenge we're working towards also.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit more about data acquisition, cleanup, structuring, because that's a huge part of all of this.
Sure.
And let's start with you at Comcast. Like, to get to a place where you have very high trust in your observability system, I imagine like data formats, cleanup, masking, stuff like that all has to be done. Like, can you tell us a little bit about some of the best practices you've either created or observed throughout your journey to get all this data into Elastic in a good way that's usable? And then Vishaal, I'll come to you with the same type of question.
Sure. So we the way we started is we have, as I said, millions of devices out there, but also we have in a distributed IT with all the microservices deployed across, right? So we built a unified ingest on top of our Elastic. Yes, we use Elastic today only for logging, but unified ingest kind of covers all the 3 pillars of observability.
Yeah.
So it's one endpoint for everybody, and it gives us a way to kind of clean up anything we want to do on the data side before we start ingesting it. It also allows us to kind of, if we have to kind of gate some, where we don't want to allow the data to come in, we can. And that's one of the challenges we've been working with Elastic is a visibility into how much the data is ingested a lot. So teams keep sending, if there is an availability, they send it. That's developers, right? So the question is, how much of data is really used, right? So the key is, how much of the data, if we have like 8 petabytes or 6 petabytes of data, is really being used today? So if we have visibility into there, that allows us to kind of use that unified ingest to kind of clean that data.
Which will help with sampling too, right? I imagine if we're not using it, why even grab it? Yeah.
And the sampling also starts at the unified ingest layer too, so that we don't really have to spend time and compute to do that ingest. That's compute we can use on AI, basically, or AI ops, for example.
That makes sense.
So that kind of definitely, and we are in progression on that unified ingest, but that's something I think is going to help us out there eventually.
Yeah. Okay. Vishaal, what about you? Like, how are you guys cleaning up data?
Yeah.
Where does it live? Like, what are the processes involved in this?
Yeah, the data piece is very interesting, especially in regulated industries. And then now if you want to try implementing Gen AI, it gets a little bit even more complex. So there are certain things that they're sensitive to even moving to the cloud. So we all know that LLM needs cloud compute or some form of compute, and they usually don't want to bring the model on-prem. So they'd like to work with a cloud provider for the model itself. So we know that model has to sit on the cloud. But the data, regulated industries are a little scared to move particular data onto the cloud. So they like to keep it on-prem. And so now it's a lot around building connectors between the model, which sits on the cloud, and then having the data on-prem. But the other piece, and which is why the whole information extraction became so popular, is because a lot of the data that can be ported to the cloud is like policies and procedures, or things that are a bit more low risk, that it does not have actual information about their clients, or it doesn't have PII or anything like that. So I think that's why the whole information extraction space really blew up, also in terms of capability. But even that becomes very challenging because sometimes information is at a, like I said, enterprise level, business level, even region level. So it changes a lot. Procedures change depending on where you are. So I think that having a very clear lineage of that data is important. But again, the whole promise with Gen AI is that you don't need to do a lot of lift to bring it. So what we recommend is, okay, let's not do the lift from the data itself. So there's no data pre-processing, because how do you pre-process a PDF? But the minute it enters into the ecosystem of the whole processing pipeline, that's where we bring in a lot of our components. So indexing strategies, chunking methods, even parsing methods. There are a lot of good parsers. There are a lot of not so good parsers.
You mean Apache Tika is not the only one for?
And that's not the only. That's used to be. But yeah, there are a lot of interesting parsers that actually do smart chunking. So the table, for example, we used a smart chunking method, which actually does not. It actually does not cut tables in between. It actually takes the whole table, but also takes metadata about that table. So we're able to extract the particular variable's exact location, page number, table title. So all of these metadata can be extracted. So
yeah, I like that.
These are some little tricks that I think that we have to bring on. And metadata collection is probably the biggest thing, and which is why the piece around Elastic really comes together, because you can store the metadata, you can call the metadata easily.
Yep.
It's challenging with, I know open source also does it. It's just a little bit more challenging to navigate through that a little bit. So yeah, this is how you work with large volumes of data that they don't want to structure. They purposely don't want to do anything with it. So yeah, it's a little bit of a challenge, but I think this is what makes the engineering fun.
Yeah.
And exciting. It's not just ChatGPT. It's a bit more of engineering that goes into the LLM, and then you parse that information, and yeah.
That's right. And a lot of times you don't even need, depending on what you're doing, you may not need an LLM. You might just need like Elster, for example, where you can just, text expansion, and all of a sudden you're getting a higher level of relevancy and maybe precision because you're using vectors versus BM25, for example.
Yeah, the hybrid is very powerful, especially even for ESG variables. Not even for ESG, a lot around call transcripts, for example. Hybrid was very powerful because if you want to extract a particular investor that asked a question, hybrid does a much better job than vector compared to that. So a very interesting approach there. Re-ranking is a really popular approach too. So I think that these methods allow you to search in a better manner without much effort. It's faster, it's easier. So it's picking and choosing. And also I've seen a lot of use cases like summarization use cases. I'm like, you don't need an LLM for it. There's a lot of good transformer models that you can run off of your laptop. You don't need a large language model. You don't need to pay for API keys. But then there's also insights versus summary. There's the subtle difference there. Summary is just compressing information, but insights is taking additional pieces from that compressed information. I think that's a bit more powerful, and that's where you're bringing the LLM. So it's decisions that the organization needs to make, but we try to help and parse through that noise and try to give them a very simplified solution that is more pick and choose and fitting into their ecosystem.
I know one of the things I've observed is there's a lot of new people coming into search and information retrieval, and they're starting with vector from the ground up and saying, this is like the only way I know how to do things, so I'm just going to vectorize everything, which is fine, but you're also ignoring like 20, 30 years of information retrieval R&D that's built into BM25. So I've worked with customers as recently as 2 weeks ago where they have this massive problem and they're trying to do everything in vectors, and I'm like, just put those in keywords and filter and you're done. And they hadn't even thought of that because they just are solely focused on vector search. And I think the combination is super powerful. So if you're just getting started and you're thinking everything needs to be a vector, like look at what hybrid search really is and understand where to make that delineation between this can just be a keyword search versus a full vector search. And I think your solution will be better for it in the end of the day. And you may find that, like, honestly, sometimes BM25 is enough for the use case. And then maybe there's a little section where you just use vectors, and then maybe an even smaller section where you're using generative rewrites or something from an LLM. So
it's a lot of picking and choosing, and also combinations. I think I believe the combinations of the different methods coming together is very exciting, because there are parts of the solution pipeline that you would want to use hybrid, or you just want to only use BM25. In some cases, you want to use both. I think but that know-how is not easy, and it's not very clear today, because right now, the whole technology herd, like you said, is moving towards semantic and vector-based. But I think that drawing out that solution and breaking it up into chunks on identifying which part of that solution needs semantic for sure, and which parts could be managed in a different manner is very important. And the whole piece with like larger the data, the more complex it gets, and you only have to do it in a particular manner. I think RAG has a lot of different components to it. Hybrid is one, pure semantic is one, and BM25 alone also could work with RAG. And I'm seeing a lot of new innovation with graph networks too.
Knowledge graphs, things like that.
Knowledge. I'm seeing a lot around graph RAG now. It's another new piece that's coming up. But very exciting, that space too. I haven't fully dabbled into it, but pretty exciting as a technology.
Okay. All right. We have just a few minutes left, and then we'll take another break. But I want to ask you, like, what are the biggest, maybe one or two biggest challenges you see based on where you want to get to in the next few years that you're hoping or even believing now that generative AI or just AI in general can help you get there? And Prabhakar, I'll start with you, and then Vishaal will go to you.
As I said, I think that now that from our side, the focus of consolidation is done, we are looking to see how we can build AI ops on top of it. The SRE is something we are very much interested in. Right, we've done a POC recently, which was well received, so we're trying to see how we can expand it. Just club the observability data which we have in Elastic and other areas, plus the knowledge bases outside, and also issues like tickets which are being generated, bringing them all together into one visualization, and kind of helping the SRE saying, hey, for this particular issues, this is the logs and this is the knowledge base, the way to resolve it will speed the process up. I mean, issue resolution, improve customer experience. So that's one area we are very focusing on. And the other one, as I said, is how do we kind of build AI ops in a way where it's scalable. I mean, when you look at unique cases, it's very easy to build unique cases. But the question is, how do we build AI ops models which can be easily scaled, lightweight, can be scalable across multiple services. So that's the challenge we are working on right now. And we are hoping that with the Olympics POC and other stuff, we are able to kind of get there next year or later this year. So those are the ones we are very focused on from a challenges perspective. I think that from the observability core observability service, we are getting there. Now the question is, how do we kind of overlay the what we call as the AI ops maturity model on top of it?
Do you see trust being an issue as we get closer and closer to automation? Like, is an SRE going to trust that it did the right thing when it remediated and wrote the report?
I think it's going to take some time, right? I think there will be some challenges initially, but as we show that they are more reliable, right? That's the key, right? Some of these stuff have to be reliable, 75% and above, and that it's not just noise being added to already a noisy system. So once we do that, I think it slowly evolves there. I see that in any use case, right? When we moved from a consolidation, there was some pullback, saying, hey, we lose a little bit control there, but as they see the advantage of an overall end-to-end observability solution, that's gone down. The same thing, I think AI ops and generative AI is going to kind of build the same way. Start slow, show that there's a value add around it, that it is not really adding noise, but it's actually providing saving time for them.
Yeah.
That will turn and push the adaptation right there.
This might be a bad way to say it, but I liken this to when I first got a car that had the adaptive cruise control.
Yep.
How many of you have a car that has, well, it's New York, so how many of you have been in a cab that has this? I'm just kidding. But like, some of us have probably driven in these cars where it's like, do I really trust this thing? And now I almost fully trust it. And now I'm starting to get to trust the steering, even though it drives drunk. I think eventually it'll work. Yeah. And I feel like AI and building trust in this automation is kind of what we're going through in the industry. It's not just about all the new tech. So Vishaal, what's one big challenge you see coming up for you that you may or may not know how to solve yet?
You say trust, I actually say confidence. So our biggest piece within the AI risk space, the team that we're in, we're heavily invested and focused on building confidence with our clients around their AI solutions, Gen AI, traditional AI, whatever it is. And confidence could mean a lot of different things. We break it down into 8 different dimensions. The 8 principles of responsible AI is what we call it. And within those, there's where Gen AI fits in is up for debate. But I think that level of confidence when you're building out a solution is very important from a risk space, from a trusted AI space. And I think that it was always an important factor. But I think with Gen AI, what happened was the scrutiny became a lot more. And so now everybody cares about responsible AI. Everybody cares about building, trusted solutions, and that they're confident in deploying within internally as well. And I think now we're actually challenging the models even more than we used to challenge humans, which I found very funny. But I think but it's good. I fully appreciate that level of scrutiny because it pushes teams like mine very hard to ensure that we are able to build controls and frameworks and governance principles that can ensure confidence in systems.
Yeah, it's like we have to build algorithms for trust and confidence now, which is interesting.
Yeah.
But hey, Prabhakar, do you want to add something?
Go ahead. I want to say the other one is we need to look at how do we kind of improve the speed of this, right? The key is, yes, I mean, you can argue that, hey, if a model comes back in 3 seconds, that's good, but it depends on the industry. If you're in an automotive and then you're waiting for 3 seconds, that's like 30, 40 feet of distance, which we don't have. Yeah. If it has to kind of look at the data and kind of break on that. Right? So the question is, how do we get it more reliable, and faster? Yeah. That's going to be the key.
Yeah, that makes total sense. All right, everybody. Prabhakar, Vishaal, thank you for joining us on stage to do this. We really appreciate it. Please give them a round of applause.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I guess I don't. Oh, I do have a mic still. We're going to take a break, but I don't know exactly how long, so I'm sure someone's going to announce.